What if I told you one of the most insane statistical leaps in the entire NBA is unfolding right now, and somehow almost nobody is talking about it?
Started with Keyonte George, who deserves to be an all-star.
Keyonte George, he is our overall winner.
Guy I was dead wrong about, Keyonte.
The basketball world has mostly shrugged and kept scrolling, and that's a mistake. These aren't empty numbers on a losing team. When you really dig into what George is doing, the efficiency spikes, the smarter shot selection, the huge leap in decision-making, you start to see the truth. This isn't random production. It's a real transformation unfolding in real time, and hardly anyone is noticing.
Stop and go, dribble drive, step back, elbow. Take back.
Through his first 2 seasons, Keyonte George didn't exactly look like a future franchise cornerstone. He was shooting under 40% from the field and drifting dangerously close to the dreaded modern label of a no-defense, high-volume scorer, the worst possible archetype for a young guard trying to lead a team. Fast forward to January 2026, and the story looks completely different. George has been on a tear, building a legitimate all-star case and arguably standing as a co-favorite with Deni Avdija for Most Improved Player. The jump from year 2 to year 3 doesn't just look like progress. It looks like a completely different player. His scoring has exploded from 8 points per game on 39% shooting to 2 on 5%. At the free throw line, he's gone from 81% on just over 4 attempts per game to an elite 90% on 7 attempts. That 90% mark ranks among the top 6 in the entire NBA. When you combine high free throw volume with elite efficiency, you suddenly become a different kind of scorer. And it's not just the points. Rebounds are up, assists are up, steals are up. But the advanced metrics tell the real story. His offensive rating, true shooting percentage, and assist rate have all climbed. His usage is higher, but his turnover percentage is lower. In simple terms, Utah is asking him to do more on the ball, off the ball, and in crunch time, and he's handling it better than ever. George is simply harder to guard now. He's always had that smooth, shifty gear, but his first step is more efficient and his handle is tighter. Defenders can't sag off him anymore because his shooting demands respect, and that pressure opens everything else. At the rim, he's finishing smoothly with either hand. Contact doesn't bother him. In fact, he's starting to seek it out, which explains the surge in his free throw numbers. Bump him, and he's still getting the shot up or heading to the line. Interestingly, his 3-point volume is actually down from last season. He's just making more of them. He's shooting 37% from deep, up from 34% a year ago. Around the rim, the frequency is similar, but the efficiency is higher. The real leap shows up in the mid-range. Last season, George took about 4.6 shots per game from between the restricted area and the 3-point line. This season, that number is close to 8, and he's hitting those attempts at 45%, up from 39% last year. That's not just hot shooting. That's a clear evolution in shot profile. A lot of those looks come out of 2-man actions, especially alongside Jusuf Nurkic. And if you look closely, you can see shades of the structural chemistry that makes the Jokic-Murray pairing so dangerous. Nurkic isn't Jokic, but the schematic role is similar. A decision-making hub who provides screening gravity and interior passing. George thrives in that setup. He's an excellent pick-and-roll operator, but what separates him is how dangerous he is without the ball. He moves instinctively, relocates into open space, and punishes help defenders. That's a skill many ball-dominant guards never develop. This season, he's producing 22 points per possession on catch-and-shoot opportunities and hitting over 50% of his spot-up threes, according to Synergy. Last year, those numbers sat at 0.6 points per possession and 35%. That's not a minor bump. That's a full-scale profile shift. And this production isn't empty. Utah has stayed competitive late in games, sometimes more competitive than the front office might prefer, and George has become one of their most reliable closers. He ranks 9th in the league in clutch win probability added and 10th overall. Context matters with those numbers. A second quarter bucket doesn't carry the same weight as a late game possession. A one-possession shot in the final minutes isn't the same as a random transition three. George is hitting high-leverage shots consistently, and that's the clearest sign that this breakout is real.
And throws it home. Take splits in the paint. Got it! Keyonte! With 2.1 to play against the beast of the...
So the real question isn't whether something changed. That part is obvious. The real question is what actually caused the leap, because players don't make jumps like this by accident. Keyonte George has always been known as a scorer. That was his reputation coming into the league, and it was the role he felt most comfortable in. But from day one, head coach Will Hardy put him in a position that was anything but comfortable. As a rookie, Hardy asked George to run the point. Not just handle the ball occasionally, but actually operate the offense. That meant structure, communication, and accountability on every possession. Hardy coached him hard and pushed him to be more vocal. George started 44 of 75 games, averaging 13 points and 4 assists, but the growing pains were obvious. The talent was there, but the consistency wasn't. Year 2 didn't make things easier. George averaged 16, 8 points, 6 assists, and 8 rebounds, starting 35 of 67 games. But the story of his season wasn't about the statistical jump. It was about the inconsistency. He was benched multiple times for mental mistakes and defensive lapses. He even lost his starting spot to Isaiah Collier and Colin Sexton. Around the league, and even within the organization, a label started to form. Talented, but stubborn. Skilled, but immature at times. Something had to change. After last season, Hardy called George into his office for what he later described as a powerful and, at times, emotional conversation. It wasn't yelling or finger-pointing. It was honest, raw, and direct. The message was simple. Belief from a coach only goes so far unless the player demands more from himself. Hardy made it clear that his faith in George had never wavered. He was paying attention because he cared and because he saw what George could become. The conversation was about leveling with each other, recommitting to the process, and making one thing crystal clear. Hardy wasn't backing off. He wasn't stepping away or giving up on him. He was going to stay right there, pushing him, supporting him, and fighting alongside him. George felt the impact immediately. By his own account, his exit interview was brutally honest, but exactly what he needed. Hardy isn't a coach who sugarcoats things. He'll call late at night, say something as simple as play defense, and hang up. But over time, that bluntness turned into real dialogue. There were moments Hardy didn't like something he saw on the court, and moments where George explained what he was seeing and thinking. They started meeting in the middle. That trust mattered because of the role George was playing. On the floor, he was essentially a second version of Hardy. The coach can't step onto the court, so George had to think for the group, run the system, and execute the vision on every possession. Compared to his first 2 seasons, that relationship became more demanding, more honest, and far more connected. Hardy boiled the message down to something simple and uncomfortable. It starts with how you treat yourself and what you expect from yourself. George took that to heart. About a month after that meeting, Hardy noticed a difference. George wasn't taking days off. He was constantly in the facility, working on his body, his handle, his reads, everything. Another key influence was Dr. Ronald Kimmons, the Jazz's vice president of player wellness. As a clinical sports psychology consultant, Kimmons helped George and the rest of Utah's young core grow off the court. George has credited him with playing a major role in reshaping his mindset. But the shift wasn't just internal. George made a conscious effort to build stronger bonds with his teammates. He organized a team trip to his hometown of Dallas for workouts and events. He reached out to Lauri Markkanen to spend more time together off the court, even visiting him in Finland. It was quiet, intentional work, but it showed leadership. All summer, the one word that stood out was commitment. George spent most of the off-season in Utah. He wasn't bouncing around or disappearing. He was present at workouts, team events, and even supporting the Jazz Summer League squad. That combination of personal work and team investment led Hardy to describe George as a player who was finally comfortable in his surroundings. And the timing couldn't have been better. Utah reshaped the roster. Colin Sexton and John Collins were moved. Veterans like Jusuf Nurkic, Kevin Love, and Kyle Anderson were added. Jordan Clarkson was bought out. The team drafted rookies Ace Bailey and Walter Clayton Jr., with Lauri Markkanen still the top option. The door opened for George to claim the next spot in the hierarchy. This time, he didn't hesitate. Because the leap you're seeing now didn't start with a hot shooting stretch. It started with accountability, ownership, and a young guard deciding to demand more from himself than anyone else ever could. And that's what makes this transformation so different. It's one thing to make a normal year-to-year jump. It's another thing entirely to improve almost everywhere at once. George currently leads the Jazz in total assists with 298, ahead of Isaiah Collier, who just last year set the franchise rookie record with 416. As a team, Utah now ranks second in the NBA in assist percentage, a massive leap from 18th the season before. In simple terms, George is seeing the floor better than ever. And there's a strong argument that the Jazz throwing him into the deep end early in his career helped make this possible. From day one, Utah asked him to run real offense, heavy pick-and-roll reps, real reads, real responsibility. That early trial by fire accelerated his development. Interestingly, his pick-and-roll volume is actually down this season compared to his rookie year. But his efficiency in those possessions is at a career high. And that's intentional. Utah has diversified how George gets his touches. He's working more off the ball, attacking on the second side, and stepping into shots instead of creating everything from the top of the floor. The result is less burden, better rhythm, and smarter offense. But when George does run pick and roll, he looks like a completely different player. His cadence as a ball handler has improved. He's calmer and less rushed. He's no longer coming off screens looking panicked or predetermined. Now he's reading angles, manipulating defenders, and choosing how to attack instead of feeling forced to act immediately. That growth shows up in the numbers. His turnover rate in pick-and-roll situations is at a career low, even dating back to high school. Better ball security, better decision-making, and smarter shot selection, especially inside the arc, have all elevated his on-ball game. The other major driver of this leap is what he's doing downhill. This season features the highest percentage of his shots at the rim since his high school days. He's drawing free throws at an elite rate for an NBA guard. Those inefficient pull-up attempts have been replaced with real pressure on the basket. He's either finishing through contact or forcing defenders to foul him. Across the board, George is being asked to do more, both with and without the ball, and he's responding with career-best rebounding numbers and improved off-ball defense. He hasn't suddenly become a lockdown stopper, but the effort is there. The engagement is real, and the little things are starting to show up consistently. Now comes the real question. Is this efficiency here to stay, or are we just watching a hot stretch before George settles back into the role of a high-volume scorer on a losing team? There's definitely a version of the future where Utah never becomes a serious contender, and George turns into a usage-heavy flamethrower. Exciting, explosive, and entertaining, but ultimately inefficient and defensively costly. We've seen that archetype before, and it rarely leads to real team success. The defensive side of the ball still needs attention. George is clearly more engaged, his rotations look sharper, and the effort is noticeable. But the numbers tell a more complicated story. When he's on the floor, Utah is being outscored by nearly 7 points per 100 possessions, with a defense that would rank near the bottom of the league. Supporters will point out, fairly, that the team's defense collapsed after losing Walker Kessler for the season. That context matters. Still, critics have a point too. The defense improves by around 9 points per 100 possessions when George sits. That's not a small swing, and it's a legitimate concern. Right now, those issues aren't being magnified because expectations are low. Utah isn't supposed to win, and George is still in the honeymoon phase of his breakout. But once winning becomes the priority, once percentages start fluctuating and scouting reports tighten, his defense will be judged just as harshly as his offense is being praised today. Stephon Marbury and Monta Ellis both put up big numbers too, but you weren't building deep playoff runs around them as the primary engine. So the questions matter. Can the defense improve? Can the shooting hold up over a full season? What happens if Utah moves Lauri Markkanen and the roster context shifts around him? Those answers will shape the next chapter of his career. But step back for a moment. George is averaging around 20 points and 6 assists on strong efficiency. He's posted multiple 35-plus point games against quality defenses and is running one of the most efficient pick-and-roll profiles in the league. The reason you're not hearing much about it has less to do with his play and more to do with his environment. Utah is a quiet market. The Jazz have very few national TV games, and they're sitting deep in the lottery, far from the play-in race. That's usually enough for most fans to stop paying attention. But future stars often come from losing teams. We just don't notice them until the breakout becomes impossible to ignore. The real question is simple. Is this just a hot stretch, or is this the moment Keyonte George figured out how to control games at an all-star level?